You're listening to Entrepreneur's Enigma, a podcast about the ups and downs of the entrepreneurial journey. Every week, your host Seth Goldstein interviews entrepreneurs from all walks of life about their entrepreneurial journeys. From store owners to Fortune 500 CEOs, we all have stories to tell. So sit back and join us for the next 20 or so minutes while we explore the entrepreneurial world.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneur's Enigma podcast. I am, as always, your host, Seth. Today I have a good guy, Doug Katz. He is a disabled Army veteran and knife maker, the CEO of NULU. And what NULU is a innovative knife to help people with disabilities. There you go. If you're watching the video, help people with disabilities use a knife and continue working in the kitchen, which is really good. It's patent pending, and it helps cutting. It changes the nature of cutting by better placing the control and the blading surface under the hands so that it works better. Doug is also active in the lending industry. He helps out veterans and investors through his services there as well. Hey, Doug, welcome to the show.
All right, man. Good to see you, Seth.
Thank you for your service, by the way. I know, you're a West Point guy.
Yep.
That's wild. So how was that? I mean, were you a football guy? Did you play football there or no?
Well, when I went there, there's a specific sport that they have called sprint football that actually has gotten a bigger following, but it was called lightweight football when I went there, and it was true football, but everybody had to weigh 158 pounds at the beginning of the season. So backs, everybody were the same size. It's becoming more popular in some other smaller schools.
Sprint football.
What's that? Sprint football, yeah. And
that's wild.
I unfortunately couldn't keep the weight off, and I became a rugby player between my sophomore, which we called yearlings at West Point, and my cow, which was what we call juniors. I became a rugby player between the two.
You're a rugby player. That's awesome. So you served in the Army.
Yep.
If you don't mind saying, like, what happened? Like, you became disabled?
Yeah, I was very fortunate, and this is what drives me to be very driven in veteran stuff. So I got out I got out of the academy in 93 when I graduated, and I left the Army in 98. That was probably the only 5 years of peace we've had in decades.
Yeah.
It was the end of the first Desert Storm, and the wall went down and all that in Europe.
Yeah.
And it was the beginning of the Balkans.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
So I spent, the better part of a year in Kuwait in a show of force when Hussein was still around. I was still deployed, but it was really a show of force. So because tensions were high, we didn't do a lot of movement. We didn't do a lot of training. Anything that could be misinterpreted wasn't really. It was cool that we trained some international stuff, but I was very fortunate in not having to ever fire a shot in anger.
Ooh.
I also had a kind of a unique, I was an artillery officer, and artillery is sort of a unique branch. I'm sorry, say again?
It's the big guns.
The big guns, king of battle. And it's a unique branch in that there are some non-standard career paths. So the beginning of my career, I was selected to be the Divardi counterfire officer. So if you think of a division size element, there is a group at the division level that tracks enemy artillery coming in, extrapolates the trajectory, and gets the guys who shot it. Very cool. Effective in Desert Storm and all the different conflicts we fought, because if you can make the enemy afraid to shoot, you have a lot of superiority on the battlefield. So I was in the division.
It's all poker.
It is. Well, and it is understanding how to negate certain capabilities that they have to be able to give your guys better capabilities. Like, I think generally it's very interesting when you talk to people about military service. Somehow everybody's kid is special forces, or it's impossible. And I take a different. Well, sometimes I think there's some embellishment.
Yeah,
but the sad part to me about that is, for every fighting person out there, you need so much support. And artillery is one of those big support branches where the maneuver guys, armor, infantry, all of that, know how important artillery is. But artillery isn't, it's like the lineman of the combat arms, right? When we do our job, people know it. When we don't, people know it. And then I got the chance to do fire support, which is, I think that has helped me a lot as an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Because fire support is taking mortars and artillery and rockets and any other fire support and applying it to what the maneuver, the infantry or the tanks are trying to accomplish. So the understanding of battle space and overall strategy is highly elevated. More generals have come out of the artillery than any other branch.
We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show.
Oh, wow. Because it's more chess.
It is, and it's where all the football, rugby, hockey, and lacrosse players went. So I will say that we have a fun officer basic, as fun as Oklahoma can be. And then my last job was also something I think really helped me in entrepreneurial pursuits is I was the battalion intelligence officer, and artillery is the only branch that has their own intelligence officers because understanding the enemy artillery is kind of a granular thing. But again, it gave me something that some of my peers may not have who went traditional artillery, because I kind of think about what can go wrong, what's the enemy going to do, and they do that, but it was like my job for a while, so it was kind of a fun thing to do.
That's very cool. And so then you got out of the military, and then what did you do when you got out of the military? What was the next thing you did?
The first job I went into a company that did rail castings. So like old school foreign steel castings for the international market for suspension and coupling systems, primarily out of, like, one of our big clients were Brazil. And it was really interesting because they were the same system that we make domestically, except it was a little bit different in tolerances because they copied old versions.
Oh, that's funny.
So it created a whole nother market where castings had to be made special for these countries that had copied original castings. But I was only in that for a short time. I don't think that company really knew how to utilize military. So then I went into the telco industry, worked for a company called Tel Labs.
Oh, wow.
And that was in cross-connect and division, with dense wave division multiplexing. And then I've been in lending for about the last 30 years.
And then, so how did you
25.
Find your way into NULU?
You know, I am a incurable hobbyist. My wife had gotten me a class on knife making.
Oh, wow.
And I just loved it. I really found that, wow, and this is the first time I've really thought of this talking to you, is that there was something that really, with knives, resonated with me with beautiful utility.
Yes,
so you can make a gorgeous knife, gorgeous handguard, gorgeous handle, and it still serves a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that really was something that I connected with. And even Steve Marney is a guy who taught me. He's great. He's retired now. But he said, I'm the one guy in the decades that he's taught people that really took to it. And
wow.
NULU came about when I was having, as you said, I'm a disabled vet. I have upper and lower extremity issues. And I was having a particularly bad time with my right arm.
Oof.
And I like to cook. And I couldn't cook because I couldn't use a knife real well. It was right before I got my shoulder rebuilt. And I couldn't really build a traditional knife. So I was kind of like, what am I going to do? And I keep all kinds of junk in my garage, like just scrap steel,
typical
right?
Guy,
like
typical guy.
And there was a circular saw blade sitting there. And I was like, I can do something with that. And I had made an ulu before. And an ulu, a shout out to the indigenous people in the northern parts of North America.
Yeah.
It was an Inuit knife that was designed around a half moon blade. And it was actually the everything knife. The women used it. The guys had hunting knives. They would stab things. Women did everything else.
Yeah.
So we just took that really to the next level with what it should look like. And really what it is an ulu would end like here.
Yeah.
What we've created, and this is kind of where our patent is, we've got a larger arc. So what happens is why a NULU is good is if you hold an ULU also, but an ULU usually has a pin right here. But same concept. You can cut, and it gives you better transference. But now
cool.
with
so
this,
if anyone's wondering what he's talking about, definitely check the video out on YouTube because that's what you're going to see all.
Oh God, okay, sorry. So
no, it's fine. It's fine. No big deal.
So if you think in terms of a circle and an arc versus a line, and for anyone watching it, a line, and this is just a knife I'm working on, not a kitchen knife, but a line when you're cutting with the blade.
Not a kitchen knife.
I'm making this as a gift to somebody, so it's going to be a nice one.
Yeah.
And I got to clean up the blade. But if you're using a straight knife and you're applying pressure to cut, because the cutting surface is aligned with the handle,
it hurts.
It doesn't put the control over the blade for the right force transference. When you talk about a circle, if you think of the center of a circle and the circumference as an arc, if you take the handle and build it around being the center, then anything along the circumference can be utilized in a cutting motion, and it transfers the force from your body to the blade. I'm not going to say perfectly because there's some user error, but it's pretty close.
There's always user error. There's user
error right here on my finger because I cut myself this weekend, but there you
go. So in your
not with
mind,
the NULU, it was something else, but.
So there you go. So in your mind, what is the best thing about being an entrepreneur versus being in the railroad casting industry?
I really think it's about, for me, freedom. Like when you asked, and this was a perfect layup, when you asked, did I do 20 years? And when I say I should have, it's because I like uncertain environments. I like problem solving on the run. I like being able to weigh risk and make decisions based on that. And what I found in corporate America, what I found in corporate America is risk averse, lack of innovation, and just a lot of things that are antithetical to what makes me enjoy the entrepreneurial world.
I love that. Yeah. And so then what keeps you up at night? Because being an entrepreneur is not always perfect.
What keeps me up right now is getting
aches
funding.
And pains. Besides aches and pains.
What's that?
Besides aches and pains.
Well, I just got done with acupuncture today, and that's been helping with the aches and pains.
Well, there you go.
I don't DIY that, unfortunately. So I still have to, but the VA pays for it, so that's not bad. But what keeps me up at night right now, I think, is scaling for us. The world today is heavily tech-centric. So what happens is, for a product like ours, finding seed money is very difficult.
Oh my God, it's hard everywhere. Yeah.
But with the tech, I think that there's. So when I get together with all my West Point entrepreneurial friends, they're looking for SaaS. They're looking for things that are military civilian technologies where they can maybe find a unicorn. My knife, while impactful, and just the chance that the market could be that big is a little bit lower.
Yeah.
So
it's a little more specialized.
It's just harder to find investment, or even a knife, right? And it's people look and they say, "Oh, it's a knife." So for us, I actually right before this call got off a call with one of my partners, and we were talking about when we get our first couple of shipments, and we begin to scale that way. How do we, what is going to be our ability to raise money? Because I'm sure it's going to be friends and family. Maybe we find a good strategic partner for
a grant or something.
Well, I'm not betting on grants right now with the way things are happening, right? Like fundamentally,
you gotta hold your breath on
this,
that.
And it's interesting, and not to get political, but this is where sometimes when people are like DEI, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Disabled vets are DEI. Restaurant owners. Ability to hire somebody who otherwise may not have been able to serve a purpose in a commercial kitchen, but can and would be a good employee. Yeah, you're maybe not hiring.
Yeah.
What's that?
And dedicated.
That's exactly right. And that's where, I look at that and say, I hope that the grant environment remains the same. There are some good private grants out there, but I do think with stuff like this, part of the thing that we've done with NULU is instead of taking an able-disabled binary approach, we take a 10-point scale.
Oh, wow.
And so this gets back to the military. So what we looked at is we said, disability is not a state of being. It's a capability argument around a certain task.
Yeah.
So in the kitchen, cutting, And in the Army, when you look at a task, it's task, condition, and standards. What's the task? Under what conditions? Under what standards? If you can accomplish that, you meet the threshold.
Yep.
Now, if you look at ability in the civilian world the same way, something like NULU, when we say it applies to disabled, it does, but in a way, we're all somewhere.
Anyone can use it too. It's not
anyone can use it, and it's a better experience. But with our model, we've charted the average lifespan of a person with their abilities. Based on our model, task, condition, standards to do something on a scale, a child is by definition disabled in the kitchen.
Yeah.
They are not as able to do anything as
and scary in the kitchen too, I may add.
They are scary in the kitchen. But when you turn the argument about what are you really trying to accomplish, and then look at ways to either extend people's ability to do it, or bring people into, like, we've made a lot of inroads into some of the organizations that support creating an independent life for kids with Down syndrome.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Working in a kitchen is a great place for them. And
they're very task-oriented people. You give them a task,
exactly
and they learn a task, and they're good at that.
And they suffer from some grip, strength, dexterity, coordination issues. So what we're really trying to do in a lot of ways with NULU and other products that we hope to bring to market is talk about adaptive design being smart design. Because if it benefits somebody who's less capable of doing a job, it likely helps somebody who is capable to do it better. And we should really, if you're designing a knife for a purpose, are you working under a historical paradigm of what a knife should look like? Or are you working under a paradigm of what a knife should be able to do for the most people?
And look cool in the process.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Our biggest problem right now has been, okay, we're designing it cooler than ergonomic knives, which look like torture devices. And now people are like, why are you just selling it as an adaptive knife? Because it looks cool for everybody. And but then on the investor side, you get people saying, stay narrow. So what we are trying to figure.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and like there's some use cases where, let's say you like to RV, and you have limited
exactly. This is perfect for that.
That's exactly right. So
it doesn't go out; it goes under, and it's literally, if you think about it, it's a square. It's not a square, but it would fit in a square area because it is contained under the handle.
And I know your listeners can only your viewers can see it. It replaces like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 knives probably.
I love it.
So we're still trying to get a grip on whether we're going to have a very distributed marketing approach for different markets so that they can connect with it. And then we're developing some accessories too that will further extend the capabilities.
That is so cool. Doug, this is so cool. So what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time, despite other than your knife?
Oh, are you talking like an object or a state of being?
Or a state of being. It goes woo-woo.
Well, right now, I've been doing some writing cathartically, and I've happened onto this thing where I said, when you're born, how long do actuarial tables say you're going to live? And actually, the actuarial tables say that the average American is going to live 77 years, which means every year that you're on Earth is like 1.3% of your life. And it accelerates from there. So I've really started to waken up every day saying, people talk about a ticking clock, but they look at the end and they don't think about the journey. So for me, it's about no longer wasting time on the crap that doesn't matter, being very, very deliberate in who I include in my life and in my endeavors and in my enterprises, and just being more deliberate. Because when you think about the biggest scarcity that you have is your lifetime, then you shouldn't wait. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, do it. You can always recover from it if you want to do anything. So that's where, when I get discouraged, I look and I say, well, again, I could curl up in a ball and spend the rest of the time that I exist in this mortal coil in that type of mode. Or I can say, this is a foot race to building legacy, making impact, and hopefully financial security.
I love it, man. I love it. So, Doug, where is the best place for people to find you online? Where do you hang out the most?
Well, I have a pretty big digital footprint, so they can look for me If you do a search, they'll definitely find my LinkedIn and all that. There's a link tree I included in the bio
that
I sent
in the
to you.
show notes.
And
yes,
I've taken to really loving that because it's one place to manage it.
One place for everything.
This show and all and stuff is on there. So Linktree is a good point. Plus, if they look for NULUknives.com, that's our main website. Currently, this is mid-February right now. Our Kickstarter is still up because we're working to.
This is going to come out end of March, so maybe it won't be live, but we'll see.
Okay, the information should still be up there if they want to see some stuff. But the website will definitely be up and running for pre-orders. Yeah, totally excited, man. And then again, I'm on Facebook. I do have a pirate channel that my team gave me because they're like, you can't be the brand guy totally, but they gave me my own little sandbox channel on YouTube. I'm calling NULUing, and I do some demos and stuff there.
Love it, my friend. Doug, this has been so much fun. We'll see everyone next time.
That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneur's Enigma, please consider giving us a review in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps us reach new listeners. If you like Entrepreneur's Enigma, consider the other shows on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net.
Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.